Hi, and welcome to Cover Brand, where we cover all things branding, marketing, and advertising to help you understand what the hell branding is and how it works to grow your business. Welcome, and welcome back to Cover Brand. I'm your host, Ethan Decker. Today, I have a friend of mine, Eric Forsyth, who is a Boulderite as well, I believe. You're here in Boulder.
Boulder adjacent, yeah.
Boulder adjacent. Are you in one of the L's? Louisville, Longmont Lions, Lafayette?
I used to be in Louisville. I live in Broomfield now, but yeah.
Okay, very good. Very good. So Boulder adjacent out in Broomfield. Eric, you and I almost worked together at Crisp and Porter Bogusky. Yeah. We could have, should have, and would have worked together in other places. So we will try and make that happen for sure.
Ships passing in the night.
Yes. Strangers in the night, exchanging briefs. Tell the folks listening, first of all, I know you're champing at the bit to talk about cover songs. So tell us your cover song story or your favorite cover song.
Okay, I love this, that this is a part of your podcast. I used to have my own little YouTube series called Toilet Seat Covers, actually. That was me just sitting, using the acoustics of the bathroom and playing covers. And so do not go Googling that because they're old and bad.
Oh, come on. Come on.
My favorite cover is probably, well, it's just a long time classic cover of mine. And this might be controversial for Jimi Hendrix fans, but it's Stevie Ray Vaughan playing Little Wing. And it's just instrumental. It's Stevie Ray Vaughan just like, making love to his guitar in a way that's just honoring Jimi Hendrix, but there's no singing. There's none of the lyrics that Jimmy brings to it. So it's just different. And it's amazing background noise, but it's also like amazing, like sit and just listen really intently noise too. So it's been like a soundtrack to my life for a few decades.
I can see why. It's such a great version. If you haven't heard the Stevie Ray Vaughan version out there, you should go listen to Stevie Ray Vaughan's cover of Little Wing. It is. You're right. And I don't think it's an affront to Hendrix fans at all.
No. It's just that he just cuts all the lyrics out. He's like, we're going instrumental with this.
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's beautiful. And you call it noise, background noise? So
or just background, the vibe, like it's working. It could be working music for me because I don't like singing when I'm working. I like instrumental music when I'm working, and then if I'm ready to focus on music, like I love a good voice.
Does he have? Is that whole album instrumental? From which that?
No, that's the thing. Stevie Ray Vaughan's he's like probably his most underrated feature because he's such a virtuoso guitar god. Yeah, people focus on that a lot, but he's got such an awesome voice, and a ton of his songs he sings. Yeah. So the fact that he chose not to sing this one and just enjoy the melodic themes and take it from huge dynamics to small dynamics. And it's really fun. And he made a conscious choice not to sing it, despite the fact that he sings all over his albums. Yeah.
That's a great point. Yes. Because if it were Herbie Hancock, it would be an obvious choice to do a cover that is instrumental because Herbie doesn't sing. He plays keys.
Same.
And lots of jazz folks would do that. So that's a great little detail about the fact that Stevie Ray chose to make it an instrumental, and he crushed it. So great choice. Bravo, sir. I'm already looking up toilet seat covers, Eric Forsyth. So I'm going to see what I can find.
Should not have mentioned that, but anyway, fan of cover songs for sure.
If you're putting stuff out there, you're already lapping people on the couch, as they say.
Those are years ago, but
it's great. I love it. And you're wearing orange in my honor, so thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You're the best.
I want to match.
For those who aren't watching this, Eric's got a bright orange baseball cap on. What's is that Tim Horton? No.
It's like the same typeface as Tim Horton. It's the Little Horse, which is speaking of the L's around Boulder. Started in Louisville, but he has one on East Pearl in Boulder too. It's vintage books and records and furniture.
Oh, cool.
It's just it's a vintage shop. Yeah, I love that place. I've bought
Little Horse.
Many records there. Yeah.
Okay, everyone out there listening, go to Little Horse. Let's support local businesses. Get yourself a bright orange cap, and of course, look for toilet seat covers by Eric Forsyth.
Or don't do that last time.
Yeah. Oh, skip that one and just go right to Little Wing by Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Yeah.
All right, now let's cover some brand stuff, some marketing stuff. Tell the folks your situation.
Yeah. Well, the last 3 years I spent at Dentsu Creative. So we like to call ourselves the kind of the biggest startup in the agency world because it was really just this Frankenstein's monster of multiple agencies coming together under a new brand. Like McGarry Bowen, 360i, Isobar, great PR teams, and then they acquired some shops too, like Tag for production.
So you
And
were the spleen of the Frankenstein.
I guess so, yeah, with a cool like scar,
Yeah.
but yeah, I
Well,
lived
you
there.
all have scars, that's for sure.
No, but it was a great 3 years, and I was
Great.
kind of ended up being their CPG guy, and I led a big portfolio of brands. Mondelez was one of my clients, awesome people there. Led big campaigns for Oreo, big
Nice.
integrated agency teams where we worked very closely with VaynerMedia. We worked really close with Weber Shandwick PR. We worked really close with
Nice.
production folks at Publicis, and but we were tip of the spear. We were lead agency on some big campaigns for Oreo, and then we did a lot of social stuff where we were a social agency of record for like 16 17 Mondelez brands, so Nutter Butter and a lot of the stuff that they've been getting
Oh, wow.
attention for, and and Chips Ahoy. Also worked on some consumer health stuff for Haleon, like Prep H, which is surprisingly fun. Jokes on
Preparation
social.
H.
Yeah, surprisingly like cool, like human voice on social, not
Yeah.
too
I
clinical.
I gotta
Yeah,
say, Eric, I don't know, maybe you're the same. It's one thing to work on Oreo, which is,
yeah,
yes, it's a really cool brand, and you were working with Mondelez, which owns all these great grocery snack
yeah,
brands.
yeah,
But it's another thing to work on brands that aren't cool,
yeah,
because either the bar is low and you've got lots of room to
yeah.
grow, or
Potential.
when you turn around or have an impact on an uncool brand or an unsexy product or category, it feels more rewarding.
Absolutely. And I got to work on those at the same time. Like those were part of my portfolio at the same time. So I'd be jumping from an
Oh,
Oreo
cool.
project with Star Wars, which was just like my dream as a nerd, and like
Yeah,
to Preparation H, which
right.
you'd think would be like, but it wasn't. It was like you got to, because we had a great strategy and great strategists working on that, and fun targeting. We got to do things that surprised people. But yeah, and then worked with some Heineken stuff and famous footwear retail. So got to work on a lot of cool stuff, but then too creative.
That's great.
Uh,
Well, I think Preparation H should be a sponsor for toilet seat covers.
Oh gosh, now that's a little much. Thankfully, my pants are on during the toilet seat covers.
Nobody nobody
It was
knows.
more just for the acoustics of the bathroom, but yeah, I couldn't help it. Especially, this is a tangent, but I remember I remember looking up Bill Withers, some song, because I think I was covering "Ain't No Sunshine" by Bill Withers at some
Oh,
point.
yeah.
I looked up, and I learned that Bill Withers was actually working in a factory that made toilet seats for like jumbo jets for like
Oh,
airlines
wow.
when he just started out as a songwriter and when he was getting big. And I'm like, so my toilet seat covers even have a connection to this song. But
That's
yeah,
great.
anyway, we're talking too much about old
Okay.
toilet seat covers
Well,
from
okay,
decades
so you're
ago.
working with some really cool brands, some big
I was,
brands, some large client
yeah,
teams. You've got your own internal large teams, and you've got large, um, like, groups of agencies, right?
yeah, yeah. You got to work with people who get a paycheck from a totally different place, but have the
Yep.
same client. So very, very integrated, and you're all kind of one team, one dream. But
Right.
I left Dentsu at the end of October last year,
Mhm.
and a bit of a sabbatical, and I had the hubris to think that I can control when my sabbatical ends. But a lot of great conversations that I've been having since then have yielded. I've been surprised to learn how much both agencies and brands, but especially small and mid-sized agencies, need a lot of help, want a lot of help.
Right.
The same stuff that I've been doing for years, which is just creating the conditions where they can do the best work of their lives. Right. So
Right.
that internal, some people think the P word, process, is like a bad word, but just that the internal culture, the internal
Yeah.
approach and organization to really create that great work, and then the external effect of it. So how do we help clients understand that we have an approach, that we have a
Right.
way, and
Right.
connect that to all of our case studies, so it's not just your typical agency branding, like, oh, we've named our process. Like, no, like we have a lot of fun together,
Great.
and yeah.
So, okay, this leads you to one of your latest rubs. What's the issue that you keep facing now in this situation?
Well, I think the more people are pressured, and the
Mhm.
more budgets are tight, and the more people feel crunched,
Mhm.
both financially and just culturally. Sometimes when people are feeling a lot of anxiety and economic uncertainty, those conditions, those internal conditions to create the best work of our lives, are sometimes put by the wayside.
Yep.
And so, really, it's like been having a lot of good conversations with agency founders and leaders about like, what is that key to fostering strong internal organization, relationships, and empowering teams
Yeah.
to do the best work, especially when resources are tight and tensions are
Mhm.
high. So how can we acknowledge those tensions,
Right.
but not just be transactional and not just be reactive, but still find the bandwidth to be proactive and still find the bandwidth to lead clients in their challenges and be embedded partners as opposed to just vendors addressing a brief. Yeah.
Right. Right. This is such a universal problem.
Yeah.
And it even is a problem when times are good for companies, it seems,
True.
because they always seem clenched, they always seem anxious.
Yeah.
People are always worried about their budgets. Even for those large mega brands like Oreo or,
Oh,
their
yeah.
holding company, Mondelez is a
You got it. Yeah.
yeah.
Mondelez. Yeah.
You'd think they'd have the budget and the time to do things well, but it turns out no, they're also kind of either strapped or constrained or
Yep.
anxious. So I've got a couple thoughts for you. And one of
Yeah.
them I know you already know because you've been a great account person for decades. So you're an expert at this stuff. One of them is that personal relationship thing. And what I tell strategy people and creative people and marketing people all the time is people are the work. The people work is the work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we forget that. We think that, yes, Oreo times Star Wars. How do you do an Oreo Star Wars collab and make it work at retail and make it work on TV and blah, 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 and make the, the, the dollars that go into it as efficient and effective as possible. But the people work is the work.
Yeah.
And so that's the first thing, of course, is spend time doing the people work, getting to know the people, getting to know your clients, getting to know them personally,
Yeah.
asking about their vacations. You know this, and it's hard to do when you're jumping on a 30-minute Zoom call and you've got to cover 12 topics.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit on us as humans to connect with those other humans.
Yes.
And that really does help set the stage for good work, to connect with them as people, to ask them about their fears, to calm them down.
Yeah.
Like, so much of my work these days is to just calm people the fuck down, because what's that phrase? No one ever died on the advertising table.
Yeah. Yeah.
We think everything is urgent and everything's important, and it's kind of not. Like, it is important in some ways for our jobs and our numbers and our quarters.
Right.
But if we can just calm down and release some of the tension,
Yeah.
that helps set the stage. So that's my first big, huge thing that I would implore you and others, is just
Love it.
help people relax.
Yeah.
I've in fact got a client where I do this right now. And so she calls and she's like, what do we do about the packaging? What do we do about this? And I'm like, cool, take a breath. Know that already we've got a B+ package. That's great. And now all we're looking at is upside. We're looking at an A-, maybe an A, but we already have a B+. That's amazing.
Right.
And like,
Yeah.
So does that resonate at all? Does that make sense? I'm sure you already have a
It
feel for
absolutely,
that.
it absolutely does. And you're right that clients will often come to their agency partners. Hopefully they even think of them as partners. So that's like step one in a whole other podcast. But they come to them with a brief that they think is ready to go. And they think like, okay, and I'm going to have this meeting with you. I'm going to walk you through the brief. I'm going to brief you. And then you're going to start working on it this afternoon, right? When in reality, the appropriate response to even the individual, take a step back and come back with a ton of questions, but good questions, right? And powerful questions. A more beautiful, Warren Berger's book, A More Beautiful Question, if you're familiar with that. It's
a great book.
E. Cummings quote of like, the more beautiful answer to he who asked the more beautiful question. I find that so true in our relationships and in branding in general. But yes, I've also, that's just project-based, smarts. But relationship-based, you zoom out even further than that, and an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's cliche, but the reality of when you're kicking off relationships, that you, to your point, you get to know their fears. Like we have get to know you documents that we then walk through. Like, tell me about your working style. Tell me what keeps you up at night.
Yes.
Tell me about your, and then I have one-on-one meetings. Like, tell me about what are the pressures you're feeling? What are the things they're feeling from their boss?
Yep.
You want to really understand, like, what are the things keeping you up at night? And how much are those directly related to the stuff we're going to work on? And maybe should they be the stuff we're working on? Maybe you didn't brief us on that, but we can totally tackle that,
I love that you do that.
having these human conversations with them, but you do have to take time to do that because it's not going to be in the briefing call. And it's not
Yeah.
even going to be in the like, you won the RFP, you're our new agency meeting. Like
Yep.
you have to make a new conversation for that. You have to
Yep.
let them know. And that's part of the approach and process you and I were talking about before is like, we know how to set up good relationships with clients because we know that a lot of times it's go, go, go. And for good reason, like there's a lot of urgency, like, hey, we hired for client, or we hired external resources for a reason. It's because like we have this need and the search always takes longer than they expect. So by the time we're ready to go, it's like the urgency is even more heightened. But that ounce of prevention being worth a pound of cure has proved itself time and time again. Where like the time you invest in those conversations or asking the questions about the brief and the real challenge, they pay dividends later. But if you don't do
And
it, it hurts. Yeah.
you're right. Absolutely. You have to set it up. You have to have those pre-meetings. You have to have those broader conversations. And it's like keeping your deck clean. It's every day you got to go out there and you got to sweep every day. You know, we've got construction next door. So now we've got sawdust everywhere. It's constant maintenance. So
What a good metaphor, by the way, for like, because we're in the business of building things too, you know?
yeah. So you gotta, it's a constant, like dirt keeps piling up and you gotta keep cleaning. And so you've got to keep connecting with those clients personally. Take 1 minute out of a 30-minute call, take 4 minutes out of an hour-long call, whatever. Start the meeting by playing music. They might not expect that. And they're like, wait, what? And then you're doing your
Dance
quote.
party. Yeah.
Right. A little quick dance.
Vibe setting.
Yeah. Play Stevie Ray Vaughan. And then it gets them off their game, whoever's on the call, even your own colleagues, because it's not just clients that get all, clenched. Anyone who's clenched on the call, just give them a minute to unclench and talk and laugh and be, quote, inefficient.
Yeah.
And do that as a maintenance thing. Not just as a one and done, like, ooh, I had my big onboarding personal connection with my client and now it's done. No, all the time you got to keep dropping the temperature, reconnecting on the human scale. So that's a big recommendation. We could stop there, but let's keep going because there's one more thing I did want to say.
Cool.
Which is, and I'm going to reference a great piece of work by speaking of a team of organizations that have put together a paper called The Extraordinary Cost of Dull. The Cost of Dull. Yeah. And it's, let me see, I think it's Eat Big Fish, Adam Morgan, I think it is, who did that. And System One Research, a good research company. And then I think John Evans, well, he's part of System One, but he does the uncensored CMO. And then I think Peter Field is a part of that from Field and Binet or Binet. So they put together this thing called like the cost of dull or the price of dull. And it's a beautiful quantitative analysis of how much more you have to spend to equal great, interesting work when your work is shit, is dull, is crappy, is boring.
Right.
And it's a real neat inversion because I love to talk about what I call the creative multiplier, which is to say that great creative can work 10x to 12x to 15x harder than crappy creative. So if you put a really boring ad on TV for a pizza company and no one remembers which brand of pizza company it is, was that Papa John's? Was that Little Caesars? Was that Domino's? I forget. You're wasting money.
Right.
And if you do great creative in your spot, then that can work 10x and 12x harder in terms of the actual business returns. Well, they did an actual business analysis and they found out that the cost of dull is really high. It's on the order of hundreds of thousands, if not millions, per brand or billions globally for how much dull work is costing you.
Yeah. It's more expensive and more effort to compensate for the fact that it's dull. It's like, it's like you're dealing with a leaky bucket. How many holes do you want to have in your bucket to begin with?
Yes.
You know, if you're refilling up a leaky bucket, let's at least make sure that the holes are we're controlling the holes we can control because there's enough holes in this universe we can't control.
Totally. Yeah. So what you can do with some of these teams, and I hesitate just to say clients, but it's often a little bit more on the client side.
Yeah, it's teams.
A little bit less on the agency side, but anyway, on either side, because you've got agencies now saying we need to put everything into performance marketing. And what might help is to look at the science, these analysis of the cost of dull, and the quote, that's a killer quote. I forget who said it, but it's in one of their reports. It said something like, if you're broke, you can't afford to be dull.
Right.
And it's a great inversion of what, quote, risky behavior means.
Right.
I hate telling clients they need to be brave.
Right.
That's just stupid, because the job of most clients is risk avoidance and risk mitigation, and rightfully so. So don't come in and tell clients to be brave and bold and take a risk and take a swing and maybe waste all their money.
You can also
Instead,
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
well, the last thing is tell them to be smart.
Yeah.
Tell them to be effective.
Exactly.
And how you do that is with creative, interesting ideas that work with the psychology of shoppers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because one of my pet peeves when we're presenting great work that has already been through our filters of why this is going to answer the brief, why this is effective.
Yep.
One of my pet peeves is when an otherwise great creative director is presenting their work, and they've spent so much time on this, right? And they've whittled it down from way more ideas, but this is what we're sharing with the client.
Yep.
And they'll present it as, oh, wouldn't it be cool if, or this would be so cool if, or, and like, the clients care if it's effective. Don't get me wrong, I think it's cool too. That's why I passed all these filters, and where I even presented it to the client. Like, this is going to be fun. This is going to be smart, to your point.
Yes.
So using those right words, even though you're just flipping the idea of bravery or risk, because it's actually risky to do something that's safe. Does that make sense?
Correct.
So it feels like a bit of a paradox, but it's risky to do something that's overly safe, right?
And right here, Eric, already start changing that language. Don't say safe, say boring.
Exactly. Dull, boring, forgettable. Yeah. Exactly.
Put it in the frame of the buyer, of the shopper, of the consumer.
Yeah.
Of you and me.
Yeah, I'm using air quotes with safe, really. I should be, at least, because it's not safe.
Correct. Lee Clow's beard is a very funny Twitter account where it's supposedly Lee Clow, the famous ad guy, and his beard is just giving you all these brilliant pearls of wisdom. And one of them I loved was, the biggest risk you can take is to take the safe option, or something like that.
Yeah.
But it's the wrong frame, because it's about individual risk and business risk and corporate risk. And what you've got to think about instead is the consumer, and not being boring to the consumer, not being forgettable, ignorable, bad brand linkage, all those things.
Yeah.
So those are my two biggest pieces of advice when it comes to how to set the stage, how to till the ground to create great work. Number one, the people work is the work.
Yeah.
Because you've got to connect with the people who are going to make the decisions. And then number two, talk about work being smart or effective or dull or resonant, as opposed to being risky versus safe.
Absolutely. I love that, Ethan. Great framing. And you're absolutely right that a lot of it has to do with framing. Like, you have the truth in your head, you understand why it's important, but maybe we're framing it incorrectly or in a way that's unhelpful. You've touched on something that's so true, where we have to have empathy for clients and empathy for consumers. We have to balance both. And that can sometimes be tricky, because we'll fall too far to one side or the other.
Yeah.
Where we're creating this so consumers, or if it's B2B, whatever the buyer is, that they care. Like, we're solving some sort of problem for them and helping them care about this interruption that we're bringing to them. And hopefully it's not an interruption. And also, our clients have these very real pressures they're feeling, which sometimes help and don't help get to that consumer. But you ultimately, it's reading the room. You're reading both rooms at the same time.
Yes.
And you have to know your audience. Who are you talking to, and how am I going to get through the noise of this one to get through the noise of this one?
Amen. That was so well put. So great to talk with you, Eric.
You too, Ethan. Yeah.
We will be getting together soon in town. I know that, so that's great.
Yep.
And I look forward to hearing some follow-ups. We'll have to have you back on the show so we can talk more. We've got probably a dozen other questions you can ask and we can talk about.
I'd love to. Keep it up.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Ethan. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
Do you feel like you should be getting more horsepower out of your brand, but you're not sure how? Bring it into the shop for a quick and affordable brand tune-up. We'll run some diagnostics, we'll make some quick fixes, and give you recommendations for bigger repairs or improvements you can do later. Learn more about the brand tune-up at appliedbrandscience.com.